All right. Welcome to another episode of GTMN. Right as we started recording, and this is May 4th, Austin, you were saying it's Monday and you're already exhausted with your Ironman training. I'm nowhere near Ironman level. I did my 3 miles yesterday. I'm now trying to lock in for my November marathon and trying to get more regular. But tell us about your Ironman training. What does that involve? What is your Sunday like?
First of all, happy May 4th to you. Today is Star Wars Day, which is probably the most important day of the year.
Indeed. Happy May 4th. May the 4th be with you.
Yeah, May the 4th be with you too. I try to make a tradition of watching something Star Wars every May 4th. So I hope that you do as well. Even if it's just like, a Jar Jar Binks clip or something, which maybe we can do at the end. We'll find out. That would actually be great.
Indeed. Let me work on that.
Ironman training, I don't want to overhype it because there's so many people who have done this before and have done multiple. But I'm finding that it's really hard to have a full-time job and train this much. This weekend I did a 75-mile bike and a 16-mile run, which was exhausting.
That sounds like you had a very full Sunday. Oh my God. How long did that take you?
Saturday I left at 9, got back at maybe 2. It was a 4.5-hour ride, but I stopped a little bit, got lunch afterwards, stuff like that. Out of the house for 6 hours or so. And then Sunday was 2.5 hours, something like that. It wasn't too long. And the weather was so nice here. So, running outside for 2 hours, just once you can do it, feels great.
That's great. I am looking forward to getting that level in the next few months.
You will
Okay.
be. You will be.
Not Ironman, but at least running, a half marathon without being in bed for the next 5 days.
No, the thing is and this applies to a lot of marketing stuff too. Anybody can be good at anything if you spend enough time on it, right? That's not to diminish, because there are athletes who spend their whole lives training, and I think that's very admirable. But if you want to run a marathon, it's just time. That's all it is. And then even for this half marathon, it's you have the plan, you're going to put in the hours and the time, and then you're going to be ready. It's amazing what the human body can do. You just got to put the time in.
Well said. And I completely agree with you that is very much the case for marketing as well. Okay, on that note, a bunch of interesting things happened in the last week around marketing. And I want to start with, I don't know if this is interesting, but maybe it's all obvious, but a few different headlines that all sort of gravitate towards the same thing. So, number one, Meta finally launched an MCP server and a command line interface. This is the first time that they've actually opened this up. So third-party agents like Claude and ChatGPT can easily not just read, but create, edit, and manage campaigns through natural language. So full sort of life cycle. This is a very big deal because historically this has not been possible, and you had to do all types of hacks and people would get banned. And so they've made this a first party, offering from Meta. But then again, couple of other things happened. StackAdapt did the exact same thing. They launched an MCP server. Amazon Ads launched an MCP server in open beta. And you're just seeing tool after tool, ad platform after ad platform, open up MCP servers. And I think the game is going to change quite a bit for all ad buying going forward. Again, not a surprise, but just seeing 3 or 4 of these massive platforms make the announcement the same week is pretty interesting.
Yeah. I mean, these things all fit together, right? A couple weeks, was it last week or maybe the week before, Salesforce announced that they're going headless, and we talked about that briefly. Now you have ad networks that are technically also going headless in a way. I mean, it's the future, right? We're in this intermediate phase where you can imagine it's where we are with agents is the same place we are with self-driving cars. There exist people who need to manage tools in the UI. And we also have agents and tools for agents. But increasingly, we're going to move to a world where there doesn't even need to be UI. And in fact, we were postulating this last year, I think actually in a conversation you and I had, when we were talking about CRMs, we said, what if you could make your own UI, right? Do you even need a UI at all? Or do you just need the schema and maybe some elements that are default for people, but you allow them to construct their own UI? And Claude Code Claude Code plus Claude Design, in my mind, makes it pretty easy for anybody to take a headless system and build the the DIY UI on top that they want, as long as it has the right infrastructure behind it. I can imagine a much better version, not to diss too much on Meta, but I can imagine a much better UI visualization of the Meta platform. It's pretty confusing a lot of time. So I'm actually really excited. The challenge still is that a lot of people don't know how to use CLI yet. A lot of people don't even know what an MCP is. An MCP is like a wrapper around an API, so it has like a limited amount of settings. And so what I'm finding is like people who aren't using MCPs are just going straight for service tokens, right? And there's a whole host of dangers with that as well.
Yeah, I think to your point, like, do people actually know how to use these MCP servers and CLIs? Like, we live in a bubble, right? We live in the in the proverbial valley where our friends and peers know all of that stuff, but like the vast majority of the market doesn't. And they're still gonna want to like log in and touch and feel the UI
Hmm.
for a while to come. But anyway, like, credit where credit's due. Meta launching this and not just doing it in a read-only manner, but also like giving edit access and write access is pretty freaking amazing. So expect a lot of hype over the next week on your Twitter and LinkedIn feeds about how marketers will talk about, oh, I've simplified all ad buying to 5 minutes a day, or 5 minutes an hour, or a week. Sorry, 5 minutes an hour would make sense. So I'm just fascinated with like what the discourse is going to be over the next week or two about the stuff. But on that same week, something else happened where Meta's Manus acquisition is now completely off.
Yep.
China apparently blocked it. And so it's interesting, what happens is that just turn into like a business development deal. But I'm surprised that they did not do their due diligence on this, given it's a $2 billion acquisition, but maybe it doesn't matter much to Meta. Like it's chump change compared to what they deal with.
Well, also, maybe they've already extracted most of the value in the short amount of time that it was, the actors went through. There are all these, I just read a couple articles where like, it's going to be really hard to quote unquote unwind because they instantly started incorporating technology.
Hmm.
I think part of the deal is that the former founders have to leave Facebook and they're okay with that. And, China, I think, was saying like any non-return technology bears risk of liability, but how are they really going to litigate that? If like technology has already, if the IP was effectively how the system works and they've already understood how it works, even if they unwind things or remove it, if there's enough like engineering willpower and understanding of how Manus operated, they can just recreate it themselves. And maybe they already have done that. So I kind of think that China was too late to the punch, and that even if Manus goes away, it really isn't going to materially impact Meta that much. But that's just my prediction.
Yeah, it's interesting with all of these. I was talking to head of growth at a fast growing tech startup, and this is, I wouldn't call them like an AI company, but they definitely have like AI tailwinds behind them. And I was talking about sort of how they do their whole growth marketing, ad buying, marketing tech stack, and the reaction from them was like, hey, all of these new tools that are coming out and the MCP servers and what have you, yes, it's making my life a lot easier, but at the same time, we're not sort of giving up full control to these tools, and especially when it comes to ads. And the reasoning for them is like the alpha is still very much in doing things that are a little bit crazy and out there. And like these tools are not necessarily giving them recommendations for how to really break out of like the monotony of what's happening within their category. So they're like, yes, we're doing a lot, but it's also like back to the same, stuff of like good marketing, good creative, and where do you get sort of insights from? So I feel like the Manus stuff, the MCP servers, I don't know. And I had a post literally this morning on my LinkedIn feed from Ashley Faust, who leads lifecycle marketing at Atlassian. And she was like, can we just go back to the time when marketing was marketing? Now we have prompt engineers and GTM engineers and AI engineers, and like everything is like engineering, MCP servers, APIs. It's like we've lost all the fun there was in marketing, which was I don't know. I'm just like looking at all the news and going like, yeah, something the balance feels off.
I know. I could not agree more, man. It's bizarre.
Yeah, it's I think a correction is kind of coming in some ways. I don't know what it will look and feel like, but it has to come. Just a giant step sort of maybe back from all this talk about tools and systems and technology to just like going back and talking about marketing. Maybe we'll do more of that going forward on this podcast.
Yeah.
I'll switch it up a little bit in the next week or two.
I think a lot of us are dealing with this right now. there's like a crushing amount of excitement over what AI can do. And I think there's a lot of learning happening. But we are experiencing a little bit of a slowdown from all the things that came out in the early winter, I guess like late winter, early spring. And in particular, in the last month, like I felt not overwhelmed, but I felt like I was distracted from the noise of it all. And I wasn't actually using things the way that I could be. And I also had like gone into a little bit of a bender using everything and like ramping my understanding of AI. And then I came out of it and realized actually there's maybe 4 or 5 things out of these 10 that are really replicable and like help make my life better. And a lot of it is actually maintenance and management of systems and tools for the sake of it. And I think everybody is dealing with that. The meta problem, which we've continued to talk about in this podcast, is that how do you get teams to work together so that when I build a skill for somebody and you build a skill for somebody and
Mhm.
everyone on our team just has like an easy way to understand what other people are doing and how and why. That is like an unsolved problem right now. And the solution that I've seen is using GitHub, which
Mhm.
I don't personally think is like a great solution for non-technical marketers. So
Mhm.
if you hear of the solution arising, but I honestly think like imagine you're in Claude Cowork. Imagine you just had the ability to just like see other people's work, shared co-work skills and projects.
Totally.
I think that would make it less scary too, because then you could have a builder on the team and maybe actually a go-to-market engineer or a marketing engineer would make a lot of sense if they're like the person maintaining this stuff for everybody.
Apparently, Ramp has built something in-house. They talked about it. Their founders were talking about it on X, that they have an internal sort of, exactly what you just described, a system and a directory for all the skills and agents that anybody can sort of interact with. But that becomes the place where people go and look for stuff before they, try to recreate it on their own. And I had somebody else reach out to me asking about, hey, have you seen tools like this? And so the problem is everything is changing so fast, like all the Codex launches and the OpenAI launches from last week, right? So
Yep. Yep.
5.5, which has gotten really, really good, and Codex, and then I think they launched something called Codex for Work, which is basically their take on co-work. And so now I'm getting FOMO in the opposite direction, where I'm like, oh, maybe we should go play around with Codex for co-work or Codex for Work. It's just stuff is. I don't think that we will know what the steady state is. Like it's just going to be a primordial, soup for the next like 12 months or maybe longer.
It's going to be wild. It's going to be wild.
Yeah. Okay. So a couple of other things that happened last week that are worth talking about. So I was having lunch with my team, and one of the earlier career people on the team mentioned to me, "Oh, hey, have you heard about Instagram on your TV?" And I'm like, "Huh? What?" And so apparently now you can. There's an Instagram app for Apple TV and basically like any TV, and you can watch reels on your TV. And I'm like, oh, interesting. So Instagram's trying to get into the TV world, and I think it's just a starting point for longer form content on Instagram, like going after YouTube and Netflix and what have you, right? It's all sort of at the end of the day, like how much of the attention that you can take.
100%.
And then, okay, this one's funny. Netflix is launching Clips, which is a vertical video feed for Netflix. So
No.
it's like everyone wants to be
No.
yeah. It's just all going to be the same, right? You open up Netflix, you're going to have short form clips that lead into long form shows. It kind of makes sense for Netflix. And then maybe it makes sense for Instagram, where you have like short clips, but then like the creators on Instagram are going and launching full blown shows and movies. I don't know.
Yeah, well, we
It's an
talked a little
interesting.
about this. Remember the short form thing that you showed us in the pod like a couple weeks back? You were being captivated by like a mini series that had these,
Yes, yes, uh-huh.
well, it was captivating. I mean, what could be really interesting too is if they have short form stories on like for imagine Disney did this. This would be really powerful. If Disney had short form clips from your favorite characters involving new scenes and stories from like Pixar characters. And I don't know. I mean, it may get easier and easier to do with AI. The production cost of this stuff was always the barrier to entry, but now it's just a creative barrier. Can you hire smart people to share stories, and how quickly can you wrap these into, into little clips you can put online?
That is really interesting. And I wonder why Disney doesn't show up on my feed too much. Maybe I'm not a Disney fan, but like Disney could totally be clipping their way to success. But yeah, maybe they are, maybe they are not, but they don't show up in my feed.
Yeah, give me little bite size 4th of May
Exactly. Yeah.
Star Wars stuff,
Yeah. Okay, interesting. So, and then few other things are happening on video. So this is all about video. We talked about Netflix and Instagram. Apparently, Pinterest has launched. So Pinterest bought this company called TV Scientific. I don't know if we talked. I think we talked about it. The deal hasn't closed yet, but this was a CTV platform buy from Pinterest. And so they're essentially now allowing advertisers to reach their entire Pinterest audience on third-party properties through their TV Scientific sort of deal. And so imagine you're launching CTV and you build a profiles like everybody who has, pinned something around wedding, theme, and it'll only target those people on your CTV. So interesting launch from Pinterest. And this is happening like across the board. Amazon's doing this, Pinterest is doing this. And apparently Meta is getting into the CTV market. And so it's kind of interesting that everyone, like, it's so dynamic. This whole ad tech market is so dynamic, and they're going to go after like the Hulus, the Disney Pluses, the Rokus, and you can basically just buy CTV through Meta. So one single ad manager for all. And I don't know how they will sort of launch it, but I think this is a pretty big deal. And they're pitching it apparently as like a full Advantage Plus deal. So which means you just give it some like creative elements and it's going to figure out how to create your whole CTV ad campaign based on the creative that you give it, which is, CTV creative is like the hardest thing because you have to actually know what you're doing. It's like, it's not just, reels and statics, but lots of interesting movement in CTV.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this is the play with lots of vendors, just finding more surface area. And we've talked about this a bunch, right? There's always people that are looking to spend more. And how do you increase the surface area by which people can spend? You find new avenues and enroll them in the platform.
Yeah, it's an interesting world. Okay, a couple of other pieces of news here. So one is ChatGPT. So they had only launched, I hadn't fully realized it. So their ads inventory was only targeting about 5% of the eligible user base when they launched in April. Now they're up to 20%. And, obviously they'll continue sort of growing and get to 100% by the end of the year. And one interesting sort of tidbit that they released, obviously this is very selective. They had the stat that, I'm just going to read this, early sentiment analysis shows that fewer than 7% of users find the ads intrusive.
Fewer than 7%.
Fewer than 7%. So they're kind of trying to frame it as like 93% of 93% of people don't find it intrusive, which is interesting, right? Because that's probably the biggest pushback that the industry had, that, hey, if you put ads in AI, now you've lost is it really helpful or is it just like advertising, which you can argue, is advertising helpful or not? But 7%, I don't know how to think about that number, but that's not a very high number. I would have expected more people to say that it's intrusive, but maybe people don't care. Like, that's the whole point. Like, they see ads everywhere, and so they're like, yeah, sure, give me ads if you're gonna make the whole experience free.
Yeah, it's hard to, I mean, this is getting off track, but it's hard to know how many of those 93% don't care because they value it being free, or don't care because they've like mentally written off the effect of advertising. Right. And I think there's a term for this. I forgot what it is, but it's like how effective actually is advertising when people have been indoctrinated now to like ignore advertising. And a lot of time we talk about, hey, well, you're priming people, and with enough consistency over time, you can get to them. But there's a lot of times, like, for example, every time I go to Google, I see ads and I just like don't even look at them. Like I don't think I've ever bought something from a Google ad from a search ad. ever.
Yep.
It's always because I found something somewhere else, and then I search for the term and find it, and I'm paying on a brand word, which is not effective use of cash, in my opinion. So I wonder if it's going to become the same thing. And again, like I'm not representative of the entire market. I'm probably only representative of some part of the market, but I do think there's a big portion of the market who like doesn't view advertising anymore because they've just blocked it out. So it'll be, I mean,
Oh,
yeah.
totally. I think it happens even on like just media sites, right? If you go read a publication and you have all these banner ads everywhere, if you're not using an ad blocker, my eyes just like know exactly what is an ad, just even without thinking about it and just tuning it out. So I think that's exactly right, and maybe that's what's happening with ChatGPT as well. There'll still be some people who select in, but most people, I would argue, are just tuning it out unless they're actually interested in getting taken down a rabbit hole with
Yeah.
ads.
Yeah, and this is a little. I've been thinking about this a lot because we had this conversation on what will the ad medium look like. If the ad is embedded in the recommendation, there's a big portion of the population I don't think that will recognize it as an ad. And even folks like you and I who are tech savvy might not recognize something as an ad at first if it's presented as a solution, which I think is that has the potential to be both very, very powerful and very, very scary, is when AI, which is a trusted advisor, starts recommending things, even if they're flagged as ads. The fact that AI is recommending it, does it really mean that's an impartial collection of sources, or is it actually just, giving you the item of the highest bidder? And so I think the moment in time where, for example, GPT was giving me recommendations and one of those recommendations was like an ad, I would like completely lose trust in the system. And I would either want to
Mm.
pay to not see ads so that I can feel and validate that whatever it's telling me is not being influenced by money, or I would just switch to another LLM provider, which, we talked about this with Anthropic's NFL thing. Yes, they're targeting a specific sector of the market, but right now that sector of the market is probably the most important buyer.
Mm. Interesting. Yeah, it's gonna be, and if you think about sort of, I observed this. I was having a coffee with somebody a couple of weeks ago, and we were researching something on. We were just having a fun conversation about a topic, and so we decided to Google something, and immediately people searching on Google, going into AI mode, and then doing follow up. That's become like the default way that I think most consumers are using these LLMs. Right? It's basically just AI mode on Google. And if you think about like AI mode on Google, it right now I don't believe it has ads, although like there's mixed. Some of the, maybe they have some ads, but like not a lot. And it's going to be interesting how the world evolves, because maybe we're overthinking it. Maybe people will just still be okay with ads because it's going to be everywhere. Google's going to have them. ChatGPT is going to have them. Claude, I'm pretty sure, is not going to have them. Like that's at least something that we can safely say, although who knows. So maybe that'll be the advantage for Claude, but then they have to figure out the economics of it.
Yeah, and I mean, not the sad thing, I mean, this is part of advertising. It's just there's going to be a big portion of the population that doesn't know the difference and still clicks the links, right? It's not going to be the blue anymore. It'll be different color and different style, but like I hate to say it, there's like the vast majority of the human population can't actually distinguish what's an ad versus what's not. And that's going to continue to remain to be the case with AI.
Yeah, true. Okay, by the way, what's your Gemini usage like these days? Are you using it quite a lot or not a lot?
Not really.
Like AI mode in Google?
I use AI mode. Yeah. I just find that I've adapted Claude Code as my primary interaction interface with AI, especially because I don't know if I showed you this, but can I get this on the screen? Let me see.
Demo time. Yeah.
I have a Claude keyboard I made, and
Wow.
it has 3 keys. It has a key to create a new session. It has a key to whisper flow, and then a key to do like the hold and press talk. So now that I have this, I click the button all the time to just create a new Claude Code terminal. It like literally opens a terminal, types Claude, and so it kind of instantly engages Claude Code. So I don't even search anymore. I just hit the button and then
Dude, that is pretty cool. how did you make the keyboard? Did you Claude research your way to making your keyboard?
I went to Amazon and looked for like 3 key keyboards, and there's this Asian game. I don't know. I don't know what the game's called. I'm sorry. I'm inappropriate here. But it looks like a game from Japan or China. And this is the keyboard to play that game. But it comes with the ability for you to write software on top. So I bought the keyboard and then I plugged it in and told Claude, this is what I'm trying to do with this keyboard. Please hack it. And then it made a little Chrome thing and set it up for me, and it was ready to go. And it, like, you can't see it, but there's actually,
Nice.
because it's unplugged, but normally there's like a racing kitty that goes by on a little LCD, and it has LEDs on too. So it's like lit up, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome. Okay. I mean, like I said, somebody at all of these AI labs must be working on a hardware product because like we're hacking it right now. But you know how you remember when Siri became a dedicated button on Mac? Right.
Yeah.
And then and so at some point all of these tools are going to become dedicated buttons on your, hardware.
Well, this
Just
is, I
immediately
mean,
open a XYZ session.
this isn't a marketing thing, but it's an observation. Like hotkeys or command keys, the command keyboard became so popularized in the last 5 years, and everybody has command keys for everything. But the problem with that is that they're all different. And so you can kind of get them. Like, for example, I think Superhuman kind of invented the JK as ability to go up and down in emails, and that's adapted by folks like Condo and other email platforms. But there's just a diversity of hotkeys that I can't remember them all. And so, for example, with
Yeah.
WhisperFlow, it has, I think, Control Option WF and then Control Command W. And I kept trying to do it, but I'm like, I don't remember these. And there's also like Select All and Sublime. Like, there's just a million keyboard shortcuts. And unless you're using it every day, you forget. So I think a really cool part of an AI keyboard would be the ability to just make a button anything you want, and it can actually run any operation inside your key on your keyboard. And I think in the future, what we could do is you could just have, like, rather than 3 keys, you have a row of 10 keys. And each of those could actually perform not only a keyboard command, but it could also perform an AI action. So you just hit a button for it to like repeat a skill. I mean, I could do that today with this 3 keyboard. I could hook up a
Yeah.
key to a specific kill, like, skill, open up Claude, run the skill, but I'm not like that intense. But I think there's probably a world where, imagine you're, like a product manager at a company and you're triaging linear all the time and you're running the same skill over and over again in the day. And even if it's on a cron job, maybe sometimes you want to be like, hey, just go get the latest ticket and check it out or whatever. So I don't know. We're moving in some really unprecedented times. The first person to do something like this, I think I read about this on X a while back, there was an engineer, somebody who hooked up like a foot keyboard pedal for Claude Code. And
Okay, I
that's
like
what got
that.
me thinking, well, a keyboard is, I just need an extra key. That's all I need.
That's cool. On that note, so I think apparently ChatGPT is now sort of tightening up its integrations with OpenClaw. So you can log into OpenClaw with your ChatGPT login. Very small move, but that happened. And that just shows like what's coming next. I think there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff that they launch with OpenClaw. Okay, couple of other items before we wrap this up. So Reddit Q1 ad revenue is up 74% year over year. So 663 million in total revenue, and most of that is ad revenue. So blowout quarter, active advertisers grew 75%. That's just bonkers.
Wow.
And the other thing that was interesting is their weekly active users is continuing to go up. So it's not like it's getting diluted by just like more low quality usage. Like Reddit weekly active user counts are going up as a percentage of their total user base, which is like wild. And then Meta is now officially the largest ad platform. So they beat Google. I think they were projected to do that this year, but I think that they did this in Q1. And their ad growth in Q1 was the fastest since 2021. So 33% year over year growth with 56 billion in revenue. And then ad impressions are up 19% year over year. And the average price per ad is up 12% year over year. So both volume and price point are going up, which is also kind of wild. So yeah, just crazy growth. Ads don't seem to be slowing down, just getting fast, more and faster and better.
It's crazy. I mean, not surprising, but also I guess, a little surprising, if that makes sense. Like, I mean, I feel like a lot of these ad platforms are all just trading places at this point. Like, they're all pretty advanced and pretty sizable. So when I hear something like that, it doesn't shock me. But I don't know. Should I be shocked?
I mean, what's wild to me is like most of most of us are talking about how AI is changing decision making and, the buyer journey. Like, how many times do you hear about AI discovery, AI sort of optimization,
Sure.
citations and LLMs? And again, I keep thinking about that and I keep like looking at what's happening in the advertising market and going like, why is there so much attention on that AI discovery piece? Because the reality is like more and more money is just going into ads. So it's kind of, I don't know. It's just, there's a dissonance here for me in terms of the hype on the AI stuff and then what's actually happening with ads.
Mhm.
So, interesting times. Like, I don't know. I don't know what the future is, but I think you're going to see some type of saturation on the AI, discovery or LLM search market. Like, I think it
Sure.
has to kind of calm down because the amount of attention it's getting is a little bit unwarranted, in my opinion.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess we'll just have to see.
Yeah, it's sorry, I have some background noise on my
I
side.
know. Tell us more, Pranav. What's going on over there? What are we working on?
Background noise. We have termites, so we have a termite. The whole thing. We had an inspection a couple of weeks ago. They're in here in the house trying to get it fixed. So yeah,
Are
fun
they
times.
gonna
That's what's happening.
are they gonna put the giant circus tent over your house type thing, or is that
No,
not?
no, it's not that bad. It's like we yeah. If it was that bad and we had to move out, that would be sad. But it's just a couple of isolated spots. So they just apparently what they do is like they fill it with certain type of chemicals. The little termites will go take it to the mother termite, and then everyone will die. Sadly, well, happily. Um, so that's what's happening. Oh
Just
my
hope
god.
AI doesn't follow the same pattern for us.
We're all gonna be taken over by our AI overlords. All
Quick
right.
question. Before we go to next topic, what do you think happens with the IPO markets for these big AI companies this year? And, I'm also curious if you think that, in particular OpenAI's, marketing push, if that's the thing that allows them or unlocks them to IPO, or if they're going to have to base it on hopes and dreams.
I think for OpenAI, there's a couple of different things that are going on, I think. So one is if you take a step back and think about what will investors value in public markets for these companies, what they're going to go by is if you just look at Claude and Anthropic, they're purely going by like enterprise usage and how that's going to go over time, right? There's no consumer angle there. Maybe there's a prosumer angle there, but there's no consumer angle there. OpenAI, on the other hand, is playing a two-front battle, right? They have the advertising push, which is very much dependent on their consumer push, and also the enterprise push, which is similar to sort of Anthropic. So the question is, will markets like the more diversified bet, or will they like the more concentrated bet with Anthropic? And my take is I think OpenAI is going to win that war because they're going to have a more diversified bet, right? If you look at Google, you look at Meta, you look at Amazon, you look at any of these large companies that get to $1 trillion in market cap, they're not doing it off of one product or one particular segment that they're going after. They do it by having many. The weird thing is like how fast all this has happened. So it took Google and Amazon and whatever like decades to get to a point where they're so diversified, whereas OpenAI is trying to get there in like the first year or 2 years of commercial history. So I think they will be valued very, very well, all because of the growth prospects, not because of profitability. It's going to look like the first decade of Amazon when Amazon was not profitable, right? People remember that time. And they were just continuously investing in better product. And it paid out. Like it worked for Amazon. So I think it's going to be the same thing for OpenAI and Anthropic, where even if they're not profitable, they're going to be valued very, very highly. And then, over the next decade, they'll get to profitability. But nobody's in a rush to get to profitability. The markets don't expect it. And if you just look at their funding up until now, nobody cares that they're burning this much cash. And I don't think that the public markets are going to be any different. And the reason is they're all just going to say like, yeah, just keep growing, become a $10 trillion company, and we'll figure out profitability later, right? Because where else are you going to invest your money if you're a public market investor? So I think those IPOs are going to be epic. And actually, I think OpenAI is going to do really well from their advertising push. Without that, I think they would have stumbled a little bit or looked not too different from an Anthropic.
I buy it. I buy that narrative. Yeah. The only thing I think that upsets all this balance are the obligations for server space and compute that seem to be stacking up insane liabilities. So it's like they do have certain targets to meet, unlike Amazon, who, they didn't necessarily have targets outside of Wall Street.
Oh, interesting. What targets do you mean? Like, what targets does OpenAI or Anthropic have to meet with compute? Like, what is that? Yeah.
I mean, oftentimes they're pre-buying compute power by physically investing in data centers. And so the question becomes, like, can they earn enough cash to fulfill those obligations, or will they have to keep levering up? Because there's an imbalance, right? And it's well known. It's like there's an imbalance between how much it costs to service AI and how much they're collecting. And I mean, you could maybe say that was the case with Amazon, but it wasn't really. The case with Amazon was that basically every time they made money, they reinvested it back into the business, but they didn't have an unprofitable business. They just were investing continually to make it not profitable, right? But the business model of AI right now is actually unprofitable. And we've talked about this before. Like, I measured the amount of compute that I'm using from Anthropic versus what I'm getting on Claude Max, the Max plan. And the Max plan is a fixed cost of $200 a month, but on a token basis, would have cost me thousands of dollars. And I don't think that's the case just for me. I think that's the case for the vast majority of AI users, is that they're actually unprofitable. So the question becomes I
don't know about that, Austin. I think you are in the top 0.01% of users who behave the way that you do, right? Think about all the normies who are paying $20 a month or $200 a month and barely using any of their tokens. So I think it's just like any SaaS. It's weird that we're calling it SaaS. There's a distribution curve, right? Some people are going to use a lot, and some people and they're going to figure it out over time of how to make that happen. And they're already doing it, right? Like their max usage. I see this on our team plan, right? Where anytime you are close to getting to your limit, they sell you on additional usage and what have you. They're constantly peppering us with additional usage packages. So they're doing tons of work on pricing and packaging. That seems like a temporary thing. I don't think that that's going to be unprofitable in the long term. And if you think about it, Amazon not buying, but getting more and more warehouses was kind of similar to this whole story, right? Because that's the only thing that allowed you to get to 1 day Prime and then 1 hour Prime, right? You couldn't make those type of improvements if you didn't invest in the logistics infrastructure, which can be argued that you had to do that upfront and load up all that cost before it showed up in terms of profit. So
that's really fair. It's really fair.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Amazon of AI, investment upfront to make it easier to scale profitably later.
Yeah, what's just wild to me is there are two Amazons here, right? There's two really successful products. And then you can almost argue there's a third in Google. Google's not holding back. They're pushing really, really hard. Their AI stuff is getting good as well, man. I use Google Slides a lot for all types of things, right? Sales presentations and what have you. Their previous version of Google Slides AI tool was it would do you would say beautify the slide. It was the weirdest language. It was a persistent prompt in Google Slides. You'd hit that button, it would create an image and put it on the slide. And just last week, they changed it to actually drawing the slides, element by element on your slides. And so they are moving really fast, and it's really, really good, with their slide stuff. So Nano Banana is great. I'm always reaching for Nano Banana. I'm always reaching for Google Slides AI stuff these days. So I don't know. I don't count Google out yet.
I mean, this is the scary thing, is that it's hard for standalone AI businesses to live. If Google figures this out, why would you use a tool like Gamma? Or literally even, or Figma, right? This is the exact same existential crisis that investors are signaling with Figma, right? If there's an existing incumbent that eventually figures it out and it's part of an existing payment plan, are you really going to pay more for it? And So the only advantage right now is speed, but that's not going to last for forever. And, these businesses are not going to be able to pivot into something bigger in the same time that Google just figures out how to build the thing. So yeah, I mean, this is like top of mind for me, especially is, I have a one-click Gamma prompt that will take any idea and create a business plan out of it with templates and stuff. But I would much rather have it in Google Slides because everybody uses Google Slides and you can share them and they're part of your org. And it also just makes it feel normalized. Whereas if you share a Gamma, people are like, what the heck is a Gamma? And I think this is an example of like a lot of different parts of the business where people have started to build these one-off AI tools and technologies. And I just don't know if they're going to be able to weather the storm of what's coming.
I mean, hey, Google should definitely think about buying Gamma for like $5 or $10 billion. Like that would make a lot of sense. Make that a core part of their platform. I have to give a shout out to a tool called Moda, Moda.app. I've been using it now for like a few months. It was actually built by Anvisha, who used to be a PM at Dropbox a long time ago together with me, and did another startup in the HR recruiting space, and now has launched Moda.app. And what it is think of this as like, you prompt it, it does the design, but it actually gives you a vector canvas with vector, drawings of whatever you prompted. And so it's become kind of like, so you like Excalidraw, right? We both are fans of Excalidraw. So imagine being able to prompt Excalidraw to give you like a hand-drawn version, but just like that, but with like actual Figma stuff, right? So like this is what I would expected like Figma's tool to be, but it's actually working really well for things that I do, like conceptual drawings. I'm creating a bunch of social media stuff through it, and it's working pretty well to explain like hard concepts, etc. So Moda.app, if you haven't checked it out, give it a spin.
I'm trying it right now. I actually have a presentation I'm making for May 15th. And I am going to give it a shot. What I love about it, actually, as I'm going through it, is I love the automatic brand agent. So helpful. Like, I feel like V1 of a lot of AI tools was, here's a spot inside the settings where you can give us very specific instructions. The V2 is, just give us your effing website. And like, that's exactly what I want.
Yeah, exactly.
So many assets already exist. And it's like, I don't really want to have to tell you all the stuff that's already on my website.
Yep, exactly. All right, everybody, go check out Moda.app and tune in again next week for another episode of GTMN.fm. If you like what you're hearing, give us a review and a rating on your favorite podcasting app. And until then, have a great week, Austin. Get some rest. And we'll see you next week.
See you next week.